All right. It's been a while. Welcome back to the latest episode 175 of Motor City Uncut, presented by the Major Sports Network Detroit. We're back for the first time since, like, the beginning of November.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we kind of gone to a new alternating schedule where, we don't necessarily do an episode every week, whether it's content permitting or otherwise. Kind of trying to keep it fresh here as it's kind of a downtime in Detroit area sports here. And there's only so many times you can say the Lions need to tank, the Tigers are in the middle of tanking, and the Red Wings suck. So, well, and then you got the Pistons too. Anyway, long story short, we're back. How's everybody been, guys? I mean, Shawn, I know you've been
on the move,
Florida for work.
I know,
bastard.
it wasn't even that nice of weather.
Better than here.
Not really.
You're like in the middle of the state.
Yeah, I was in the middle of the state, and
there's nothing in the middle of Florida.
In the first few days, it was hot. It was like 80, and then it got down to 60. And then the last day we left, it was 45 degrees.
Oh,
it was.
Would have killed for 45 degrees here.
You know what, though?
And you even got to stay extra long, too. Like an extra, 3-4 days?
Yeah.
You'd much rather be up here?
Much rather be here.
Yes.
Well, anyway. And Adam, your son just had a birthday.
Yeah, he did.
5?
5 years old.
Heck yeah.
Man, I remember when we were doing this, well, it was actually, Detroit Sports Edge at that point.
Yeah.
Back when we actually went on like a 8 or 9 week hiatus right after my son was born. That was our first year in business there, so we've been doing this for, holy cow.
I know. It's been a while.
Going on 6 years. I mean, fairly.
You're getting old, Dorf. You're catching up.
The same rate you guys are aging. Yeah.
Oh, my back. Hold on. There we go.
I am the baby of the podcast, so.
You youngin'.
Yeah. You guys aren't that much older. I know we've done this, radio for Two Topic here forever, but
I'm at least 5 years older than you, so he's at least 8 years older than you.
I lost count how old I am.
Yeah, I know, right?
You're like, what, 35?
I think so.
Okay, well, I'm 27. So.
Yeah, I'm 32.
Anyway.
We're old.
Let's get into here, guys.
When I got past these fingers, I can't
Shawn ran out of fingers. You can't count that high no more. Anyway, let's get into it here tonight. There's a lot of talk in Detroit sports media landscape here recently about the merits of the Detroit Lions in tanking. I didn't really have time. I was planning on doing this a little bit at like lunch today at work. I was going to try and do a little, 10 years back, the differences in talent between the 7th and 13th pick, where by losing yesterday to the Bills 14-13, they went from pick 13 to pick number 7 overall in the first round if the draft were today. The difference in talent that you can expect to get between those two slots. I still, if time permitting, will put that together for everybody just so they can see. But that's huge, believe it or not. That 6 or 7 pick swing that took place is a big difference in future value. The Lions, believe it or not, are only one game out of pick number 3, and they cannot get pick number 1 overall. They would need some tiebreaker, weirdo, goofy magic, I believe, to get to pick number 2. Pick number 1 is currently held by Arizona, who the Lions beat, and they would have to, even if Arizona won the last 2, they wouldn't have it. They have 3 wins currently. They would get to the Lions 5, and the Lions lose the last 2. They would have the head-to-head. Also, the Raiders, they do not play head-to-head who the Lions would beat. But I believe the Raiders have the Rams left on their schedule, and I doubt they'll win them both. That's it.
The Raiders play the Broncos and the Chiefs.
Yeah, they're not going to win both those.
I don't know the way the Broncos play.
Well, who knows what Broncos team will show up.
And they got them at home.
Yeah, maybe. Lions could potentially, now that we've worked that out there, could potentially get the number 2 overall pick. Although, all likelihood, they'll probably stay about where they are because there is between number 2 and them, like we said, like 5 picks in between. So, 4 or 5 teams that are also kind of in the same boat. So, that being said, they've got the Vikings and the Packers to close out the season. I believe those are both home games.
No, home for Vikings, away for Packers.
They got to go to Lambeau.
They always play last game of the season in Lambeau.
Yeah.
It seems like that.
Yeah.
Hey, we want to give the Packers a snow game and fuck the
Well, we
Lions.
beat them last year.
Actually, I think they beat them 2 out of the last 3 years
Yeah.
there. But anyway.
There's no guarantees, too, that Aaron Rodgers will be
Just
playing.
playing in that
Right,
game.
exactly.
Yeah.
Although, it wouldn't be up to necessarily a head coach that's essentially on an extended tryout for the permanent job. That means Joe Philbin, who's already been a failed head coach himself.
Yeah,
in
he won't
Miami.
be. Yeah, he
No.
won't be the.
He won't be the
No.
guy, but at the same time, he could potentially be trying out for other teams. If it was up to him, I'm sure Aaron plays. But, job as a general manager, they've got a weird structure there now. Believe it or not, the general manager is not over the organizational hierarchy, over the head coach.
Oh, really?
The team president / chairman of the board or whatever is actually the guy that the head coach reports to.
That's weird.
Yeah,
It is-
I
it's
forgot
different.
where I read that, but I believe it was on ESPN not too long ago. It was actually in a hypothetical if they fire Mike McCarthy article where I read that. But yeah, their organizational structure is a little goofy. And that was changed with the new chairman of the board that came in, and also at the same time as the new general manager. It's not a linear structure from head coach on up to ownership. So who knows what goes on there? So, I mean, does the general manager really have any power in this scenario? Because he's not actually the boss.
I can't assume though that an interim head coach
We'll take over.
Oh,
when-
yeah.
is going to have much power over the team right here and now. I'm sure that structure is a little.
Yeah, the head coach reports right to the president.
Well, really, it's the Packers. It's whatever Aaron Rodgers says. Who does he want? It's whoever he
Aaron
wants
Rodgers
there.
in his pride, I'm sure, is going to want to play, but at the same time, I think that's the reason that Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers didn't really get along, is because Aaron Rodgers figured he was, the NBA type superstar, where he'd essentially be the de facto general manager, much in the same way that like Peyton Manning was in his time in Indianapolis, where. But if you believe what you're told, if Peyton Manning didn't like the way you smiled at him in the morning, he'd have your ass on the street, by that afternoon. Because, he was the offensive coordinator, the head coach, and the general manager.
You know what though?
Aaron Rodgers, by all means, has the talent to do that, but at the same time, Peyton Manning's pretty unique.
I'm okay with that though. I am. I think that and I know this may be a topic for another show or another day, but I'm okay with a quarterback having that type of power. When you think about all of
Ultimately,
sports,
he already runs the team.
all of sports. When you think of all of sports, quarterback is arguably the most important position out of any major sport in the world.
The only argument you could really have would be like number one scoring option in basketball.
Yeah, like a LeBron James.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Kobe Bryant.
but
Well, and if
I
you
mean,
believe the reports about specifically like LeBron James, like apparently Luke Walton calls plays from the sideline, LeBron ignores him and calls something else, and that's just the way they do it. And everybody's okay with it.
well, I mean, ironically
Yeah.
enough, they were both drafted the same year too. I think.
Really?
Yeah,
I
I think.
know that's crazy.
And I don't know. I mean, there's certain guys you would think that can reel in a LeBron James or somebody that he would listen to in the NBA.
But at the
Luke
same
Walton's
time, you
one
don't
of
want
them.
to a pansy yes man to be brought in there either.
No, you don't. But I was just saying though. I mean, from the standpoint of having a player call, not just plays but organizational
roster decisions.
decisions. Yeah, I would say quarterback. If you're a top of the line quarterback in the NFL,
Now, how many guys?
Yeah,
how many guys would you bestow that responsibility upon? I mean, is it like Drew Brees
in the entirety of the NFL?
In the entirety of the NFL, how many guys would you say that would have are A, veterans, and B, have that kind of clout? Drew Brees,
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers.
Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. Look, you know what?
Who
Tom
else?
Brady.
Philip Rivers, maybe? Tom Brady?
Yeah, Phil Rivers. I would say yes to Phil
Ben
Rivers.
Roethlisberger?
No, not Ben.
No.
Well,
No,
it's
no.
obviously hasn't happened, although he does his best to put guys on blast in his weekly radio appearance.
You know what? Maybe unpopular opinion. Matthew Stafford.
maybe he's been given that, but undeservingly so.
Yeah,
maybe?
I think. Yeah, I mean, but in some certain ways too, wouldn't you want your quarterback to be in on those discussions when it comes?
Not necessarily defensive personnel, but offensive personnel. Absolutely.
Offensive personnel, yeah. I mean, wouldn't you want? I mean, and this goes along the lines too of, okay, you're not going to have a rookie quarterback in there necessarily. You're not going to have a second stringer in there. You're not going to have a guy in there who's not part of the long-term plans of the organization. I mean, but you're
not going to have, like, for example, like when the Jets re-signed Josh McCown this year, you're not going to give that to him.
But in every sense of the matter, I mean, wouldn't you want your starting quarterback in there when it comes to personnel decisions for your offense?
Well, absolutely.
If your quarterback is making over $100 million in the contract, he should be making the play calls.
I mean, would you give Kirk Cousins that?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If he's
notice as soon as John DeFilippo gets relieved of his duties, they drop a 40 spot.
Yeah.
Now, by no means are the Dolphins a solid team, but still, it's 40 points in an NFL game.
Yeah.
I wonder if everybody calling for his head will STFU and retire back to the bleachers here. So, anyway, let's go back to the Lions here. Guys, I understand the whole frustration with the Lions. Well, tanking hasn't done anything for them before, and no difference here. Same old Lions, yada yada, etc., etc. I understand that. However, there's a pretty tried and true formula in today's NFL about how to build a winner, and the Lions have tried to cut corners and been cheap with that, and not been able to necessarily burn it down to the ground and start over. Unfortunately, most NFL teams, at the point where Matt Stafford would have signed his 2 contracts ago, if they weren't already, rising towards that peak as a team, they would have let Stafford walk and they would have burned it down again and started over because it didn't work this iteration. We've got to try again. But instead, you gave a guy a bazillion-dollar contract who's never done anything. And now you're stuck in this perpetual state of just being kind of okay. And that's where you're going to continue to be, unless, of course, you get fucking lucky as hell in the draft. Get hit huge on a couple reclamation projects and have, just absolute top-notch coaching. You need to find Sean McVay Part 2 as an offensive coordinator. And you would have to, they've got, 8 draft picks coming up? You'd have to find 6 day one starters, quality starters, in that draft. And, the best general managers and organizations in all of football don't do that. You're not going to, you're going to have, if you look at, this draft success that, the Bears have had recently, in the Colts, you'd need to be able to do that for back-to-back-to-back years. To get where you are. You look at the Bears, for example. Their last couple first-round picks, Leonard Floyd, stud. Roquan Smith, stud. They found great value in, an Eddie Goldman. I believe he was a late first or early second-round pick. Stud. Eddie Jackson, arguably the best safety in football. He was a 4th-round pick last year. He's the best safety in football. You got to be able to find guys like that. Instead, your 4th-round picks are Miles Killebrew, who barely plays on special teams. Michael Roberts is a dud. And Deshaun Hand, who's been a nice rookie.
Yeah, he's been okay this year.
He's been a nice situational pass rusher.
And you see
which is great. That's good progress for a mid-round rookie player. However, Deshaun Hand needs to come out next year, start every game, and get you 12 sacks.
The proof is in the pudding, too, because the Bears finished last year in the NFC North, and now they're...
And look where they
are. Division is clinched.
Look at the teams that are having great success right now. Rams. Quarterback on rookie deal. The Chiefs, QB on rookie deal. Bears QB on rookie deal. Who else? Chargers. Phillip Rivers doesn't make anywhere near top QB money. Good value there.
Deshaun Watson.
Sean Watson. Texans. Quarterback on rookie deal.
Phillip Rivers needs that deal too because he's getting ready to have his 9th kid, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, he's been faithfully married to the same woman, and they like reproducing.
They like reproducing. They like.
He loves kids.
Yeah,
loves kids.
Or he doesn't like condoms. One of the two.
Well, actually, if you actually talk about it, he's like, "Oh yeah, love kids, man."
All right.
No,
all right.
Maybe he does.
Good for him.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but good for him.
Anyway, just if you look up and down the standings, I mean, look at the last Super Bowl champion, Eagles, quarterback on a rookie deal. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like Tom Brady he breaks the mold.
And he breaks the mold for a lot of things too. So Tom Brady isn't even a fair comparison to make in this instance.
And Drew Brees may be the only other exception. And even then, they haven't. When was the last time the Saints actually won anything?
I think that's a testament though to just how good Drew Brees is.
Yeah,
I mean because Drew Brees.
If you look at the Saints offense, the only guys like you got some offensive linemen that are on second contracts, and Mark Ingram, but all your other skill guys are on rookie deals.
Mm-hmm.
The problem,
you're getting umpteen times more production than what he's paid out of Alvin Kamara.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting Michael Thomas as a top 5 receiver in the league. He's still on his rookie contract.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got both your left guard still on his rookie contract. I mean, you gave your left tackle a big extension. Your center is a veteran on a second or third contract. Your right guard's on a third contract. And your right tackle's on a rookie deal still. And he's damn good. But honestly, man, you have to get great value like that, and the Lions haven't shown the ability to do that.
Well, that's the thing too, Dorf. Is I see it in the show notes here too that you wonder how much you can really blame Matthew Stafford and all this. And I know
honestly, who's he had to throw it to?
I know people are gonna be like, well, here we go again. Making excuses for Matthew Stafford.
If Stafford was that good, he should be able to create these receivers.
Well, he should, but
your scheme sucks. Your offensive coordinator's a dunce, and that's been evident for a year and a half. Your scheme is stale.
Jesus Christ, and that's the thing too, Dorf, is they haven't had a good offensive coordinator in here since.
I was probably 5.
I don't know. I can't.
The early Scott Linehan years.
Yeah. Scott Linehan had a little bit of success.
Was it Scott Linehan and John Kitna? I'm kidding. Those two didn't overlap, but. The first year or two under Scott Linehan.
Yeah, but it's written right here. Kenny Galladay, like you said, will never see a double or a single coverage. T.J. Jones, not a good player. Not a good player.
He'd be a bad fourth. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't dress most days or doesn't play offense, play special teams for most teams. Go around the division. Is T.J. Jones on the roster for the Vikings?
No,
he's the only
Bears.
The only roster here I think he would even make would be Arizona and Oakland.
Probably maybe Tampa too, but
I don't think he would make Tampa.
Could debate about that. I mean, maybe probably Jacksonville, but at the same time, it's not a guy that you're going to have a bunch of teams fighting over, as evidenced by they didn't tender him a contract last year and then he just re-signed. He had the ability to go away, and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Jones. Who the flip is Andy Jones?
You can say fuck. It's okay.
I'm not trying to. Honestly, even hardcore fans out there, I bet you couldn't tell me who Andy Jones was. I walked into the studio tonight to Shawn looking up Andy Jones because I had the who the hell is Andy Jones on the show notes. And, guys, he's been on the roster all year. He was started the year on the PUP list. And, oh, by the way, this was probably his first catch.
Yeah, these were his first catches.
He got in the end zone. He scored one of the 2 touchdowns.
His first touchdown as a pro.
Yeah, I don't...
But and then you got Bruce Ellington, who was obviously not, he's not healthy. He was a decently productive.
That's the thing. Nobody is healthy.
Third player as a Texan, but in a 49er. But at the same time, he's a guy in his 4th NFL season on his 3rd team.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason. Well, his hamstrings are made of glass, or his lack thereof hamstrings, apparently. You believe the story about it.
I think they're made of rubber bands now.
Can't even give that much credit. Use chewing gum.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing is like with
Oh, by the way, who's Levine Toilolo? The dude didn't catch a pass in Atlanta. That's how bad he was, and he took him as a cast-off. He was brought in as a blocking tight end. He can't block. It's hilarious. And by the way, Kerryon Johnson hasn't played.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That hurts it too. Where in that instance, if Johnson was playing, you could put Theo Riddick split out, and that would help out something. But nope, let's just keep running up the middle with Theo Riddick.
And your offensive line is more of a finesse group, especially now with T.J. Langhurt and Frank Ragnow. Teams have started to veteran defensive tackles have started to eat him alive.
Yes,
that you can't play, big ball sack, we're going to run it right at you football anymore, which makes LeGarrette Blount useless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kenny Wiggins, bless his heart, he's a giant human being. He just doesn't drive anybody off the ball. I mean, but he's the best of what you got, and that's okay. I mean, you're getting more than what you paid for out of Kenny Wiggins, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But, guys, this is not a quality collection of characters. We already knew at the beginning of the year, especially if you looked at the win projections from the advanced metrics guys at the beginning of the year. This was a team that wasn't supremely talented. They don't have a lot of guys outside of a Kenny Galladay, which was all still just untapped potential. That was having a offensively monster year as a young player. I mean, they got good value for Golden Tate. He's been a bum in Philly.
Philly's barely used him.
Barely touched him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because their offense isn't designed to take advantage of what he does best.
But you know what? They got a third pick out of it.
I'll take it.
You got a third-round pick again, by the way, that you traded away your third-round pick for this upcoming draft for Shawn Hand.
Yeah. Lions won that.
Yeah.
Lions won that trade. Because they're not...
Marvin Jones got hurt. Mm-hmm. Shit happens.
Which brings us to the next point here, too, Dorf, is how you succeed in the NFL.
I mean, just look at... yes, the Browns haven't won anything yet. They're only a year removed from 0-16. I understand that.
But you know what, though? Mediocrity at this point for the Browns is a success.
They are still in the playoff hunt.
I know.
They are not technically eliminated yet.
That's not something you can say for the Detroit Lions right now.
They have an exciting young quarterback.
Yep.
Their defense is loaded.
They got an exciting running back, too, with Chubb.
And they're, you know what? They've stockpiled high picks that they're going to have a bunch of premium in prime talent that they don't have to pay for yet.
And you know what? That head coaching job this offseason is going to be
coveted.
It's going to be coveted. You will have...
It will not be you will not be getting this year's version of Hugh Jackson again.
No, you won't. No, because he'll be coaching in Cincinnati.
Oh God! What are him and Marvin Lewis have on Cincinnati ownership? I swear.
Did you hear the rumors surrounding that? Hugh Jackson takes over as head coach, and then Marvin Lewis moves up to the front office. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be.
What disparaging information
I don't
about
know.
Cincinnati ownership. Anyway, just and another good example to look at currently on its way up is the Colts. Yes, I mean they're on Andrew Luck's second contract, but at the same time, outside of Andrew Luck, they burn that shit to the ground.
And you know what, too? That's a good example to bring up though, too, Dorf, because what was his name?
And the Bears too is another great.
I was going to say Ryan Grigson. Was that his name?
Yes.
I mean, he was right up there with Matt Millen as being one of the worst general managers ever in the NFL. And unlike the Lions, the Colts were able to recover from that historically bad front office that they had. I mean, that's when they were going out there and signing guys like Frank Gore to contracts and.
Well, you know what? You got more than your value's worth out of Frank Gore, but at the same, pick another guy.
Yeah, who was that other guy they signed from the Texans? Wide receiver.
You're talking about the Colts?
Andre Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, they go and they sign him, at the end of his career. They just went out and handed a bunch of money to a bunch of guys who were, well past their primes, on their last leg, and they expected to do something out of that. And they didn't, obviously. But the Colts did a very, very nice job getting away from that mentality, getting away from that poisonous just god-awful front office that was led by Ryan Grigson at the time and turn it around. I mean, we thought that Andrew Luck was dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that the organization was going nowhere.
All of a sudden, I mean, they've hit on a bunch of consecutive great draft picks. I mean,
Andrew
Luck went at one point like 4 weeks without taking a QB hit.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get like, this is the Andrew Luck that was like, oh my god, his career's over because he's broken in half.
Yeah.
To he didn't get hit for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, he actually has more offensive stats than Drew Brees this year.
Yeah.
He's actually statistically a better quarterback than Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm. He has more passing yards and more touchdowns.
More touchdowns. He leads the league in both.
Mm-hmm. No, he doesn't.
He doesn't lead the league in yards?
No, he's not even close. Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, sorry.
He has like almost 1,000 more.
Sorry, Mahomes has the most in everything, but he's like second.
Okay, Andrew Luck is in second with passing touchdowns, and he is in
second or third yards.
No, he is tied in seventh.
Okay, well, Patrick Mahomes is putting up video game numbers.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, the Chiefs also have 100 points more scored this year than anybody else.
Yeah,
but, you know, whatever. Anyway, the same thing with the Chiefs. They kind of did it right too. They were good at the same time. They were able to, with an established quarterback, they didn't just take a QB in the first round. They traded up in the first round with a guy still under contract with years remaining. They traded up for Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes, who was raw as fuck, by the way, when they did it. And they've seemingly, hit the jackpot.
Where's he out of Texas Tech?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolute, but at the same time, you've got the Lions and other teams like the Lions, the Bucks, Miami, and even to the Jets to some. Well, the Jets have kind of burned it down recently, but other teams that refuse to even try. And then you also have teams like where this doesn't work out, like the Bills and the Jags, where they've been for a while and they've tried to burn it down. I mean, look. The Bills have had how many different incarnations of quarterback recently? I mean, they tried the Tyler Taylor experience. They've done, they just drafted Josh Allen, who looks like he might be some. He's never going to be the guy that's going to lead the league in passing. He's going to be pretty, but can he be Cam Newton Part 2? Abso-fucking-lutely.
You're talking to a couple of perhaps
but
the most.
You have no chance
I was going to say
become a Chiefs or a Bears or a Browns or a Colts if you don't torch it and start over.
Well, you're talking about two of the most disappointing, arguably the most disappointing teams this season, too. The Bills and the Jags coming off of.
The Bills were supposed to be bad. I mean, they had no talent. I mean, the roster's talentless, but they're at the middle of their bottom out. And that's okay. I mean, they're still 2 or 3 years away. At the same time, another perfect example of this, like this year, is the Cowboys. The Cowboys have never bottomed out. Now, they've acquired some very top-level draft assets by trading up recklessly, you could argue, and trading draft picks away like they're free. I mean, Amari Cooper's worked out great this year, but are you fucking yourself for the next half-decade?
The Cowboys are such a wild card, though. They're such.
They traded up. They traded up like 15 spots to get Zeke Elliott.
Yeah. It's almost not fair to bring the Cowboys into any comparison.
But at the same time, what have they won?
Nothing. They haven't won anything. Yeah. We talked about this before. They haven't won anything since the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
what they gave up for Cooper.
But it's such a weird team that Jerry Jones runs there, and it's because of Jerry Jones. You can never put your finger on exactly what they're doing, just because you never know what Jerry Jones is going to do tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, because he's just so out there. He's so out there. He doesn't make good decisions. Dak Prescott's not a good quarterback.
No, he's not.
And they've got a nice running back. They've got a couple of nice pieces there, but that's it. I mean, you can't put your finger on the Dallas Cowboys because 1 minute it seems like they're taking a couple of steps forward. The next week they're taking a couple more steps back.
Well, and you look at like Tampa, they bottomed out. Tennessee's another good example.
Yeah,
they bottomed out.
Yeah, they bottomed out, and then Derrick Henry finally starts picking up.
Well, it's not even necessarily Derrick Henry, but I mean they sucked for Marcus Mariota, and that's okay. And you know what? Marcus Mariota will never be a top 5 quarterback in this league, but he's a guy you can win with.
Mm-hmm.
And they've loaded up everywhere else. I mean, you could arguably say there's still like a outside skill position player away, whether it's a slot receiver to go with Corey Davis or whatever. They're 1 solid, not even great offseason away from being offensively damn good, and their defense is already pretty damn good. Like, they've done it right. They will be at their apex here very shortly. Houston, another team who's done it right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they sucked for a good long time, but you know what? They stuck with a plan. They found their QB. They traded up for a guy. And oh, by the way, they still maintain generational talent up front with Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I hate to say it, Lions fans, it's got to get worse before it can get better. And unfortunately, with the financial ramification of Matt Stafford's contract, it's 2 years before he can do anything.
He's around for a couple more years.
Now, that doesn't preclude you from taking a QB this year. This is just a shitty year to need a QB.
But then you don't do it.
Then you don't do it.
Yeah.
You do it next year. But
Yeah.
anywho, anything else, guys, about the Lions?
Mm-mm.
Moving on. All right,
Oh,
Tiger.
one other thing.
Sure.
Can we stop with the bring Jim Caldwell back and making the comparisons
Oh
to Jim
my
Caldwell
God.
last year?
Just first off, no NFL coach ever gets Billy Martin to where he
Yeah.
ranges every other year forever. You
You
get
know,
that reference?
yeah, I do. If Jim Caldwell was any good,
He'd be employed right now.
he'd be
Yeah.
employed right now. You know what Jim Caldwell's doing right now?
Sitting on his couch.
Kind of. You know what he's doing? He's consulting the XFL right now. That's what Jim Caldwell is doing.
Jim, here's $25,000. Come to a couple meetings.
Yes, that's what Jim Caldwell is doing. And you know what? He very well could have a job in the XFL when that league starts
Sure.
and is up for a year. But stop the comparisons with Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell was getting his team nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
What you saw from Jim Caldwell, the playoff appearances
Oh, by the way,
and getting ousted in the first round, that is the extent of what you would see with Jim Caldwell.
Got a pretty sick burn here, though. If Jim Caldwell was on the Patriots staff, I think they would have been ready to expect that passing it back and forth kind of stuff. With their loss to Miami.
Oh.
They were set up in Hail Mary defense from 80 yards away. And Rob Gronkowski, of course, can't make a change of direction on a dime, and he gets beat to the corner.
Oh gosh,
This is the
that was
thing.
awful.
You know, it's something-
Because they thought Ryan fucking Tannehill could throw it 80 yards in the air. Ha! Let alone the Miami offensive line block long enough for guys to run 80 yards.
That's it.
Yes, anyway. Okay, anything else, Sean? All right. Tigers. Kind of left the winter meetings here with kind of just a whimper. And that's okay.
You know, I'm like, I thought it was.
Please don't try and sell me Jordy Mercer as a
No,
quality acquisition.
no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the pitching that we got. I'm happy about that. What else are you gonna expect? I mean, that's better
Tyson
than
Ross was one of the worst qualified starters in the NL last
It's a
year.
1 year deal. We got them all super cheap, and then the trade deadline.
I don't disagree, but it's
That's
just
why
like
I'm excited about it. I'm not excited to say, oh, we got to sign these guys and they're going to win, make us win.
Tyson Ross 3 years ago? Woohoo! Matt Moore 3 years ago? Oh, yeah. This year? I mean, the reclamation projects. And you look at your two reclamation projects you signed last year. Francisco Liriano didn't work out, didn't stay healthy. That's probably what Tyson Ross is going to do. And Mike Fiers, you got something for him.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. That's all
Oh,
I'm
by the
hoping
way, he
for.
pitched for a playoff team down the stretch and won him some big games.
Mhm.
And you got a acceptable trade package for him.
Mhm.
Guys, I mean, they got Jordy Mercer, former shortstop of the
Pirates.
Actually, if you're doing like a pretty blind statistical comparison, he's like Jose Iglesias, except taller.
And that is good defensively.
Jose Iglesias really isn't that good defensively.
Well, he's not gonna make.
He's
those.
not as
He's not as flashy as Jose. Iglesias.
potentially flashy. I wouldn't even argue that Jose Iglesias is flashy. He just was too stubborn to play in good position. That's just why he always sucked getting the balls up the middle.
He's a bridge guy. That's what he is.
Yeah, he's a 1 year deal.
He's a bridge guy to try to get you to that next guy because we talked about it last week, Dorf. Their Tigers don't have anybody in the system right now.
No,
that's
Jordy
going to be
Mercer's going to have
immediately
an
ready.
OPS in the high sixes, low sevens. He's going to play pretty much every day, and he's not going to kill you on defense. And that's fine. The dude's been a 5-year starter in Pittsburgh, and it's okay.
That's it, yeah. He's going to get the job done for you.
I'm sure he doesn't cost any money.
No?
And I would willing to put a bet on it right now, just looking at the shortstop market this offseason. Jose Iglesias doesn't have a job into February.
Oh, I bet.
Into February, he will be unsigned. He will either take a minor league deal, or somebody's going to have to get hurt for him to find a job.
Ouch.
It's not good.
There's no team. The only teams out there that really, really need a shortstop, Yankees. More than
They're gonna go with the role with the second baseman. They're gonna play what's his nuts at short.
Torres.
Yeah, Clever Torres will play it.
Right, I'm saying, well, that's a team that needs a shortstop. They would bring in Iglesias maybe to platoon that, and then another.
I'd like a guy that would do a little bit else for me, and I don't think Jose Iglesias is
That's
that.
why Machado's going to go in there, I bet.
Oh yeah, by the way, Manny Machado.
He's supposed to be meeting with him. This
Nobody
week.
really of quality is going to go anywhere until Manny signs somewhere
Right.
too. And Bryce Harper's not. Manny's not going to go until Bryce Harper sets the market. So we're all kind of in a holding pattern here.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't tender James McCann.
Woo.
Good. Dude sucks. Yeah, guess what? You get to see him 19 times this year. He's with the White Sox, or at least until he gets DFA'd in May. Guys, there's so many people I know that are upset. Oh my god, I like James McCann.
Well, they liked him because he thought he was a nice guy or something?
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
it's because he's a white dude that they could pronounce his name.
he basically was the next what's his Kelly.
Don Kelly?
Don Kelly.
No.
Donnie, no, that's
quite
Nico
that.
Goodrum.
Oh, that's Nico Goodrum.
Yeah.
Nico Goodrum is a nice bench player. He won't kill you at about 6 defensive spots, and he won't run into a lot of them, but when he runs into a ball, it goes at least into the gap.
I know, he's a switch hitter, too.
There you go. I mean, he won't kill you defensively at second, third, first, or in the outfield.
No, I mean, he's an average defender.
I don't even call it that. He's not good, but at the same time, it's not like you're playing Pudge at second base.
That'd be interesting.
So, with that being said, this sort of team in the stage where they are in a rebuild, you're not going to see a lot of action out of these guys until, especially in the way rosters are built now, you're not going to see anything out of these guys until late January, early February, where you've got some of those mid-tier or reclamation projects that have been holding out for major league deals.
Mm-hmm.
That you'll be able to, get a guy like it was pretty rare, like a guy like Matt Moore signed as early as he did.
Mm-hmm.
That must have mean that a couple of teams checked in with Matt Moore, or at least his agent convinced the Tigers that was the case. And you know what? We would normally wait for this guy until like February, but you know what? Let's just bite the bullet and do it now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of guys that you're going to expect to sign the rest of the year. Expect another utility infielder to be kind of veteran utility guy to be brought in to compete for a roster spot.
Mm-hmm.
Because currently, right now, your organizational depth at shortstop is Pete Cosmo again.
Yes, and bad.
Ugh.
And Willie Castro's mentioned that, and he's not going to be
He's not.
coming in till like late next year.
I would
at the
expect him
earliest.
in June or July at the earliest. At the absolute earliest, it wouldn't be surprised if he's not until September.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, people were complaining about the Jody Mercer signing, and again, I mean, they're not going to go out and they're not going to sign Manny Machado.
No.
Obviously, they're not bringing back Jose Iglesias, which you said Dorf. He may end up
wouldn't
signing
want him anyway.
Yeah. So this
Wouldn't be
is
surprised if he doesn't end up in like the KBO for a year.
yeah. So this is the type of signing that you do.
To me, it's a good sign.
You sign a guy who's going to be able to help get you to that next guy within your organization. That next guy is going to be ready come opening day.
Well, another guy like that guys that had major league contracts last year that had decently high expectations are in their late 20s that didn't have good years. That's the kind of guys you're going to be looking at, but they've had good years before. So like a guy I can think of a good name off the top of my head. He pitched in Kansas City a little bit last year. Is Brandon Maurer. Guy that throws hard for whatever reason, just never really misses bats, and he got rocked last year. But still got that potential if you can figure it out, how to spin the ball and miss some bats here a bit. Guy could turn into something that you then flip again for a piece down the line. I mean, if you look at that, look at like Brandon Morrow was a couple years ago for the Dodgers. Dude came in on a minor league deal. And all of a sudden, oh, by the way, you got $40 million as a free agent pitcher to sign to the Cubs. And got hurt again in classic Brandon Morrow fashion. But that's the kind of guy that you're looking at. You're not going to get a guy that wants to go play for a winner because this is his last contract. You're going to get a guy that's over the hill, like Ian Kinsler signed 2 years and $8 million with the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bridge player because they've got a pretty exciting prospect that's about a year and a half away at second base. I believe his last name's Urias, but I forget his first name. But that's the kind of guy that you're going to sign. And unfortunately, those guys just don't sign until late January, early February.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you guys think they'll bring in another catcher? Because currently catchers on the 40-man are Griner and John Hicks. Although Ron Gardenhire, kind of in his off-season comments and availabilities, hinted at he wants to carry 3 guys he can catch. Mm-hmm. And that being like one of them being John Hicks, where he can also use him at like designated hitter at first base. That's kind of the idea. So they currently don't really have that third guy on the roster. So look for them to
sign a catcher,
like a Jonathan Lucroy with
I think
Martin Maldonado,
Matt Wieters.
Matt Wieters, and Matt Wieters is also a guy that's played a little bit first base.
Right, exactly. That's why I think he'd be the best fit.
But in Matt Wieters' case, he's still kind of a guy that you could catch on with a contender in a platoon role, where you're going to have to wait for everybody else to tell him no before he'll show up here. Same thing with like Jonathan Lucroy. Mm-hmm. Really, I was a big fan of Jonathan Lucroy. He forgot how to offense for the last year and a half. So, ever since his trip to Colorado, where he forgot how to, he didn't bring his bats with him, left him in Milwaukee. But that's the kind of guy you're gonna have to sign. But here's another example: like the catcher position is defensively really only important. Look at the teams that were competitive this year. Like Milwaukee. Your catchers were Eric Kratz, who's been on about 25 teams in 12 years, and Manny Pena, who, by the way, you traded out of your minor league system for a bag of used baseballs, and didn't make his major league debut until I think he was 27 or 28. Mm-hmm. And that was their catching tandem this year, and look how far they went. Boston's catching tandem wasn't all that great, especially offensively.
No.
Yankees catching tandem. Well, Gary Sanchez forgot how to hit, so they weren't all like. I mean, Austin Romine and I forget Kyle Hizagoa or however you say
something
it.
like that. Yeah.
Neither of those guys can hit the broadside of a barn. So you don't necessarily need a great offensive catcher, but when you carry 3, that eliminates the risk where you can then pinch hit for a guy in a spot and not be fucked if the guy you bring in afterwards gets hurt.
Yeah.
And plenty of teams, especially like the A's, have brought in, for example, like Chris Herman to be their like second/third catcher because he can also play the corner outfield. That'd be kind of the type of guy that you're going to be looking for to fill that third role, whether that's John Hicks and his flexibility to play a adequate first base, or maybe a Chris Herman type. I mean, the perfect guy is like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa in Texas, but he's not going anywhere. He catches and plays second base. But that's the kind of guy you're going to try and find here, or cultivate within your organization, which they don't currently have within the organization. So, and to kind of bridge the gap to maybe you haven't attempted a full-time or mostly full-time guy in the organization, that being Jake Rogers. He may be the next shot at that, and he's probably at least a year away. So, anything else here, guys, on the Tigers? Apparently Nick Castellanos has been dangled, and there ain't much action on that.
Yeah,
so.
Nothing's gonna change until the trade deadline.
Braves have reportedly been somewhat interested in Nick Castellanos, but that's pretty much
Where
it.
did they put him?
I don't know.
They couldn't move him back to third because you got Donaldson there. He's not going to play first base because there's Freddie Freeman. You've got Acuna is going to play one of the corners.
You're not going to play him in center.
Definitely not.
It's a corner outfielder.
They have Adam Duvall and Acuna.
Corner outfielder.
No.
Adam Duvall and Castellanos are pretty much the same.
Well, Duvall doesn't hit for average at all.
One other thing I would have been okay with, though, as far as shortstops go, and this is going to make Shawn happy.
Dorf and I talked about it.
I wouldn't have mind if they brought in Tulowitzki. I would not at all.
I still wouldn't mind if they did that.
If they still do.
Because then this gives you roster flexibility because you can play Tula at first, you can play Tula at third, play him at short.
I've also heard rumors that the Yankees are in talk with him right now.
See, that would work. Mm-hmm. That would work for them, and I wouldn't blame them for doing that.
Right.
Yeah, buy low on him. Mm-hmm. Extremely low on Tulowitzki.
He's already getting paid $38 million. He just wants to get back on the field.
It's going to cost you nothing. It's going to cost you a league minimum. Who cares? You can sign him to a $5 million a year deal, and you don't actually pay for anything over the league minimum.
It's especially, you know what though? It's especially beneficial though for a team like the Tigers though, because they can go ahead and flip him at the trade deadline if he's having a good year.
Tulo's kind of got that flexibility where you can go to a contender.
Sure,
and he gets to skip the trade deadline carousel. So
yeah. to some sense, but he's also been hurt, and he has to prove himself a little bit here.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. But he's financial risk free.
Right.
Yes.
So anyway, all right. Anything else on the Tigers, guys? Mm-hmm. All right, we're gonna do a little bowl game preview here. We're gonna try and rush through this here because we've been going almost an hour. Michigan's. Let's start with Michigan here. They do play on the 28th, correct?
Is it 28th they play then?
Talking about Michigan?
Yeah, 28th.
29th.
29th. Yeah, because I have it written down here wrong. I didn't change that. They played in the Peach Bowl in Georgia. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the Falcons.
Love peaches.
The Georgia Dome.
Against the University of Florida.
Yep.
This is what, 2 out of the last 3 years they met in a bowl game?
Yeah, and they're 4-0 against them, too.
Mm-hmm. And they met in the regular season the year before that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So Florida is actually a 7.5-point favorite here, guys. Fair?
Wait a second. Florida's a 7.5-point favorite?
Florida minus 7.5. That's what I saw when I looked it up earlier.
Okay.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Hold on a sec. Keep talking.
Does that influence that? Maybe the Google little score box there when you Google the Peach Bowl was lying to me, but
Keep talking.
that's where I got it from.
That doesn't make any sense to me, but there's no way that they're 7.5 favorite. There can't be. Even though we're going to get into the conversation here in a little bit, there's some players that are not playing, but still, it doesn't matter. Like, how good...
Okay, apparently the box was wrong. Michigan is a 7.5.
I was going to say.
Okay, that threw me off. I was like,
Dude, it said when I looked it up at work, I'm like, I swear to God, Florida was not favored in this game.
Staring at Excel spreadsheets too long today.
I really did stare at a lot of Excel, one big giant Excel sheet today for the entire day. But anyway, yes, Michigan is a 7.5-point favorite. I apologize for that.
Man, you were off today. Wrong bowl game, wrong day.
I did this in a hurry trying to get out the door because I was already late getting out. So sorry. Michigan's a 7.5-point favorite. However, you could argue Florida played better ball down the stretch. Mm-hmm. Are the odds right? What are we thinking here, guys?
I think I'm okay with the odds. Mm-hmm. I think Michigan, in a sense, was exposed. I think one thing that Florida's going to do is you're going to be using a lot of those crossing routes that that Ohio State used against them, and their annihilation in that last regular season game of the year. So I expect something like that to happen this year. I expect Michigan to do try to get ahead in this one, try to open things up a little bit with those deep routes, trying to catch somebody like Donovan Peoples-Jones down deep. Mm-hmm. Michigan, though, has to plug the run. I mean, as cliche as that sounds, they have to plug the run. Florida has 2 guys, so they're going to be able to throw at that Michigan against that Michigan defensive line, who's going to be without Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary isn't playing in this game. He's done. He's
prepping for
the draft. He's prepping for the draft. So that's if Michigan wants to come out on top, they have to stop the run. Shea Patterson.
Is this his last game?
Yes.
I'm gonna say no.
Should it be? No.
No.
Will it be? Maybe.
Yeah, it definitely shouldn't be.
I think Shea Patterson's declaring for the draft kind of depends on some other guys, whether or not they decide to go. Because arguably the top prospect at the position, Justin Herbert from Oregon, is potentially not going to declare for the draft as a draft-eligible junior. Mm-hmm. He's thinking about sticking around for his senior season at Oregon. And with that being said, if there's one other top-tier quarterback, I don't even want to call Justin Herbert a top-tier quarterback, but he is the best of the bunch. If he doesn't go, would that potentially could move Shea way up a board by no other reason that there's just a guy knocked off the board? Would he consider going in? Maybe.
He has no business going, though.
Oh, I agree.
No, he's not even
business
close to
whatsoever.
even being... He's going to be a late 5th, maybe 6th round pick and on the practice squad.
Well, if you're taking in the 5th, well...
I don't think he'll go that late. I mean, you've seen less talented QBs go earlier. I mean, hell, Christian Ponder went number 12, but E.J. Manuel went in the top in the first round too. But I mean, he's not quite as bad as those two. I mean, he's arguably an equal prospect to those two, and those guys were mid-rounders who somehow snuck. E.J. Manuel was the first quarterback off the board that year. Like, jeez.
And Christian Ponder got taken because the Vikings flipped out.
They fucking panicked, and
Yeah.
I think four QBs were off the board ahead of him. They
Yeah.
thought they'd have a pick of one of those four, number 12, and they're like, oh, shit! Took Christian Ponder, and he was out of the league in, 3 or 4 years. So,
And so he's got a sugar mama and what's her name? Sam Ponder. So.
the Wi-Fi works for ESPN. So, anywho, with that being said, I mean, all Florida's 3 losses, guys, were also against top 25 teams at the time. They lost to Kentucky, Georgia, and LSU. Yes, Kentucky is in the top 25. We all saw how good, premium tier Georgia is, and what's it?
They lost to Missouri.
Yeah, lost to Mizzou, who was in the top 25 at the time. That's who it was. Anyway, over-under on this game is 50.5. Seems like pretty low, especially for a college game. And if you guys were betting men, are you taking the over or the under here?
I'm taking the under.
Think a defensive slugfest here?
I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Okay.
I'm going to say 28-21 Michigan.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and take the under.
Barely under.
Barely under, yep.
I'm gonna take the over, but it'll be close. I mean, this is good over under. It's right about where it should be, where you're in conflict. I think Florida's run defense isn't as good as they think it is. I think Michigan will be able to run the ball, but I don't think, especially with this long prepare and how bad Ohio State torched them in their last game, I think there's a lot of holes open in that secondary. Especially with arguably a half-strength Chase Winovich and no Rashawn Gary, there won't be enough pass rush to take away those crossing routes, which just torched them last game. You might have a high-scoring game here. Is what I'm trying to say. Felipe Franks is so much better than he was last year too. Don't sleep on that Florida offense. I know they weren't like top tier in the SEC, but they're no slouch, man.
That's the other thing too. Is Fagan has a big day. I think it's going to be game over. I believe Michigan is undefeated this year when he's rushed for over 100 yards in a game. So, if he goes off in this bowl game, then
they have to hit him hard. They have to come out strong.
yeah.
It would be so Jim Harbaugh to like True Wilson gets the majority of the carries or something like that. It would be so Jim Harbaugh.
Chris Evans going out there.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to go to the Red Box Bowl, which played on New Year's Eve in Santa Clara, home of the 49ers. That'd be being Michigan State and Oregon. They are a 3-point or 2.5-point dog, depending on who you ask.
Michigan State
is. I have no faith in this game that it will go well. So I'm hoping for an offensive embarrassment, so the offensive staff will not be allowed back on the bus. That is my goal in this game as a Michigan State fan. I hate to say that. I hate to have the players be the casualties in that scenario, but I hope the offensive staff is left in California.
Well, the thing is with this game,
I'll tell you what. I'll give them Greyhound tickets. I won't even let them. I won't even fly them home coach. I will give them Greyhound tickets.
well, the thing with this game
or a
is
rental car.
you're going to have a really, really good offense going up against a good defense. Michigan State does have a good defense. The only thing is Oregon has been tested this year against good defenses, and they've prevailed. With that said, I think that I don't like that 3-point spread. I think Michigan State gets annihilated. In fact, against the spread. Yeah,
I hope they get whacked.
I think this is going to be a game where you're looking at 7 or above when it comes to how much Michigan State's going to lose by. I don't know if it's going to be quite the 2-possession game, but Michigan State definitely loses by a touchdown here.
I'm telling you right now, C.J. Verdell will have at least 150 yards rushing. I'm calling it right now.
Who's that?
The running back, Oregon's running back.
I doubt that.
I bet you.
Oregon will shred them in the air.
I bet. Well, at first they will shred them in the air, and then they're just going to run all over him.
That doesn't happen.
Okay, just wait.
Michigan State defenses don't get gashed on the ground, with very rare exception. No, I think they'll. I mean, you could very well have. Michigan State does not have the offense to have a Baylor, Cotton Bowl style shootout like they did between Connor Cook and Bryce Petty there. But at the same time, I fully expect Oregon to use that as a template and just move the ball down the field. at will, and I totally expect an Andrew Maxwell-esque performance out of the offense, where I wouldn't be surprised if it's something not like 42-10, very similar to what Michigan State did to Washington State last year in whatever bowl game that was. I forget what it was, but whatever that game was. I fully expect that to. That's if I had to pick a result, that's my bet. It's going to be something like that.
Sucks, but like you said, I think it's something that has to happen. A poor offensive performance that forces D'Antonio's hand, and maybe this is something where the athletic department comes and sits him down and says, "Look, D'Antonio,
dude, they've got a temporary stooge currently.
I know.
AD. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, true, but
who is Bill Beekman?
Yeah,
this isn't Mark Hollis here, where he's been there, done that, and done well.
Okay, well maybe this opens up D'Antonio's eyes on his own, even though we haven't seen that yet. But maybe this opens his eyes up on his own and says, okay, I can't go forward anymore with the Dave Warner and whoever else is, whatever high school offensive coordinator I'm running here. So I don't know. Anyway. I'm with you though. I hope they do get a 9.
Over under 48 here. I'm gonna take the over.
I'll take the over too.
Over.
And obviously, most of that's gonna be coming from Oregon. So.
I think quite honestly, Justin Herbert has a big game. That's his coming out party. Declares to the draft and post game, and we all ride off into the sunset. And he's the first quarterback off the board. Continuing their bull streak, playing against the number one quarterback off the board. They've also relatively recent memory, played Matt Stafford and Matt Ryan in the year right before they went off the top of the board. Matt Ryan went 3rd overall, and Stafford went number 1 in the year that they played Michigan State. So
keep the trend going.
Yeah. Anyway, also, anything else here, guys, on that?
Nope.
All right, cut room floor here. Rod and Mario both say tearful goodbyes on social media, saying that they cheers to Detroit, and who cares? Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. You were stale anyway. And Ferris loses in the Division II national title game, 49-47, going for 2 in the final minute to tie, and were unsuccessful. And also, Eastern Michigan loses their bowl game, that being the Camellia Bowl here on Saturday, 23-21 on a walk-off field goal by Georgia Southern.
It's okay. Eastern, second year going to a bowl game.
Good season.
Hey, that's fine.
Honest, I think they lost one of their. They ended up with 6 losses on the year, 7-6 final record. I think one of them was by more than a touchdown.
All right.
They lost several games this year in overtime or on walk-off field goals.
One thing, though, back to that Rod Mario thing. Why the fuck are people petitioning to bring back Mario?
Why?
Why? What, because he's white?
Because he wasn't the...
Because he's the white guy?
Is he?
That's some of it. But he wasn't... The public doesn't view him as the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he get fired for getting beaten up?
Because you weren't good enough at your job to bring back too in this whole situation.
It's a great time to change announcers when the expectations are low.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
Although Matt Shepard's not the answer here, guys.
No, absolutely not.
Couldn't they just create a simulator just to have Ernie Harwell's voice in it still, and just
honestly, give some
technology.
AI bot programmer enough time and enough of a backlog of the only thing you'd be challenged with is with new player names. But I'm sure they could come up with something that sounds relatively human with given enough time.
Just have a simulcast between the radio and TV.
Like the Dodgers did with Vin Scully.
Yeah, just do that. Who cares?
The only problem is you can't. CBS has the radio rights.
Yeah, that's true.
Fox has the TV rights.
How many people are gonna be fucking falling asleep?
It's about to be ABC's gonna have the TV rights.
Well, that's why you mute it and just.
You're gonna have Kirk Gibson and Matt Shepard doing games. Oh my
Craig
god.
Monroe filling in
and
for
Mickey York and oh my god.
Oh, Mickey York is the
I hate Mickey York.
TV guy, but
His voice just annoys me.
post game or whatever.
Oh. No, and you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they don't trot out, relatively recent retirees for 10-game spurts. Like a guy like Brandon Inger, like an Andy Dirks gets a 10-game run on a tryout basis, essentially. Or
Between
as a
selling
third
houses.
Yeah.
He's gonna plug.
Dude, he's selling houses. He's now doing private lessons. And
I know.
Yeah. Brandon Inge up here too. So anyway, anything else, guys?
Nope.
All right, that's it. That's all. Episode 175 of Motor City Uncut is complete. This is our last episode for the year of 2018. Do we have a first scheduled episode in 2019 yet?
Not yet. I've got to look it over.
Okay. That being said, see y'all in 2019. It's been real. Thanks for joining us. We'll see y'all next time.